Absolutely terrible.
I didn't like it at all.
Just not sturdy. It's not fast at all, folks. It's just not fast. What is up, you guys, and welcome to this video. Today it brings me great joy to present you with my reaction and Scott's reaction to the Kodak Ektar H35 versus the Olympus Pen-F head-to-head battle video. We are not holding back. We're telling you exactly how it was and how it is using both of these cameras. So buckle up and let's get into it. But if you didn't see the head-to-head battle, please head on over to this link somewhere up above and watch the original battle and see for yourself first how it went down, so you can have some idea or some type of opinion before we jump in and give you the user experience opinion. All right, let's go. Hand check. It's one of my favorites. It's one of the first things that I noticed about a camera is how it feels in my hands. So for me, the Kodak Ektar H35 didn't feel all that great in my hands. It's very small, which I typically love a very small camera, but it's super lightweight. Also, a quality that I typically like. The problem with this one is it feels like a toy that's also kind of fragile. So in my hands, I didn't necessarily feel like it was a camera. It felt like I was holding a toy and utilizing a toy. And it was very kind of delicate, fragile, flimsy, just not sturdy. I felt like if I dropped it, it would 100% break. If I bumped it into something, it would do something detrimental. And I am good for like knocking into things or, you know, bumping things. So I was really trying to be extra careful with this camera because I didn't want to break it during the head-to-head battle. I actually own a camera that's pretty similar in size, my Rollei 35V. That camera is actually solid. You know, it's made of like metal. It has some to it, you know, some weight to it. It's lightweight, fits in the pocket, but you actually feel like it can do something. You know, it feels like a real camera. Yeah, the Rollei, small, you see, fits in the palm of the hand again, Spalding style, but actually has, you know, that's made of real stuff right there. You know, metal. It's old as all get out, so I could drop this camera and break it, but I'd feel like my odds are better of not just knocking it into something and doing damage. On the reverse side, the Olympus Pen-F felt phenomenal in the hand. It feels like a real camera. It has good weight to it. It's small. If you have like big enough pockets, it can fit in those pockets. It feels like a camera. You know, it's made of metal. It feels like it's durable. And since it's lasted so many decades, we know it's durable. You know, and when you're walking around with the Pen-F and you're shooting it, it feels like you're making images. It feels like a camera. You know, it feels like a tool, like an instrument to be used to make photographs. And for me, that is the difference between the Pen-F hand check and the Kodak Ektar H35 hand check. One feels like a camera and one feels like a toy. The winner of the hand check, the Olympus Pen-F. Viewfinder. The viewfinder on the Kodak Ektar H35 is terrible. Absolutely terrible. It's possibly the worst viewfinder I have ever used on any camera. Other cameras I still have to use in the future, the title's up for grabs. So right now there's a reigning champ. It's the Kodak camera here, this H35. Terrible viewfinder. Inside of the viewfinder, it's like very narrow. And on the perimeter, say here, there's this kind of translucent, almost tape-like thing that has like little lines, but you can see through them. It presents itself like it's a border on the camera, like it's letting you know, okay, once you hit here along the sides, this is out of your frame. But when I reviewed the photos later, this was not the case. Not the case at all. The photos showed that we actually had more space in the frames than what those border looking lines indicated. So that was obnoxious because you're framing up believing those are your, you know, that's your frame, and then you get the results and you find out that's not what it was at all. And then secondly, everything looked smaller, like significantly so, in the viewfinder. So I never felt confident while I was shooting this camera that I was actually making a good photograph. And that was right. I don't think I made one good photograph using this camera. And Sure, it could be the user, could be the photographer, but I'm going to place some blame on this camera system too. I'll take a percentage because it's my first time using the camera, but I'm not going to take 100% because I don't believe I'm this bad, in my humble opinion. Whereas I felt the Olympus Pen-F viewfinder was solid, yo. It was clear what I was composing. The viewfinder on my camera doesn't have any haze or dust. It's easy to see what I'm photographing. And if you're looking into buying an Olympus Pen-F, the viewfinder typically is an issue. You have to I know when I was buying my Olympus Pen-F, finding a clean viewfinder was an issue. You have to really go through and make sure you're reading the description to make sure you're getting a viewfinder that doesn't have a lot of crap in it, a lot of haze, dust, and random other stuff just up in there, obscuring the view of what you're going to be photographing. So I am fortunate that my Pen-F has a very clear, easy to read viewfinder. Because of the quality of the Olympus Pen-F viewfinder, composing my images and feeling confident that I was actually going to get the results that I saw through the viewfinder, I felt good using this camera. The winner of the viewfinder, Olympus Pen-F.
Round 3.
Glass. On the Olympus Pen-F, I have a 38mm f1.8 lens, but also kind of an odd focal length, right? It's not a focal length that you typically hear a lot, 38mm. It wasn't uncomfortable though, because I typically shoot a 35 or a 50 more often than not, but using a 40mm lens is also not foreign to me because that's what's on my Canonette. So that 38 felt like a nice cozy slide in, right? It didn't feel weird, didn't feel foreign. It just felt like, all right, we're doing 38, why not? So yeah, I like the focal length a lot. It's wide, and if you wanted to, you could still shoot people with it. I've been shooting this lens all summer long. Eventually I'll make a video about the Olympus Pen-F and my time with it and share more photographs from using this camera system and using this lens. But so far I really like the 38mm lens. I think it's a great focal length for this camera, and the Olympus Pen-F also comes with a lot of other quality lenses that I definitely want to explore and get more into and experiment with. I like that I have the opportunity to try other lenses because the Olympus Pen-F is an interchangeable lens system. Unlike the Kodak Ektar H35, whose lens comes in at 22mm f9.5. Not only is it an odd focal length, but it's also quite slow. And the camera comes with a flash to, I guess, combat the slowness of the lens. But it was such a sunny day when we shot that we did not utilize the flash, and the flash did not come on at any point. It's too sunny for that. 9.5 aperture is the fastest that she'll go. It's not fast at all, folks. It's just not fast. For me, 22mm is a odd focal length. I don't shoot that wide, ever. It was too much for me. It was too wide for me. It was not my favorite. And then on top of that, like I said, you pair that with the terrible viewfinder and the composing just becomes more difficult, more trying. And yeah, I didn't enjoy it at all. The things that the lens got in focus, okay. But those things that were in focus were not necessarily the things that I was aiming to get in focus. So yeah, watching the original video, it was hard to see what the images actually look like because, I mean, you're watching a rolling picture. You're not, you can't like click on it, open it up and see exactly what the photos are, which is why if you head to my website, you will see under my subheading, It's My Blog, that I post the images from my head-to-head battle so that people can go in later and take a look at the images to see what I see when I do these battles, to get a better understanding of how these camera systems actually render photographs. So if you're interested in seeing what I'm talking about, what I'm complaining about, check out the link. It will be in my description down below. Winner of glass, Olympus Pen-F.
Round 4.
Price point. For me, this one is tricky, even though this category is very straightforward. The Olympus Pen-F can run you between like $200 to $300 for a quality Olympus Pen-F that doesn't have any like issues, right? So for some people, I can see how that's maybe out of their price range, or they don't want to pay that much for a half frame camera. Whatever your issue is paying that amount of money, right? When you think about the quality of the Pen-F, I think it's priced accurately. There are some cameras that just do a really good job at what they do, and the Pen-F was made to be a half-frame powerhouse. You get the photographic user experience when you use a Olympus Pen-F, whereas the Kodak Ektar H35 is $50. But if we're just talking numbers, we're not looking at the quality of the cameras, yeah, 1000%, $50 is better than $200 to $300. Winner of price point? Kodak Ektar H35.
Round 5.
Overall user experience. This is kind of a new category I'm throwing in here because it was 2 shooters this time. So it was me and it was Scott. And I want to give us each more room to really talk about our experience using both of these cameras. So let me dive in. I have had my eye on the Olympus Pen-F for years. Been watching it. It's been in my saved searches on eBay for years. I have watched the price go up, go down, and remain steady. The interesting thing about this camera is it hasn't had dramatic highs and lows. It's always kind of steadily stayed around that 250 marker, which lets me know that this is one of those cameras that really is worth what it's priced at, kind of a deal. I always knew about this camera. I was always looking at this camera. I always went back and forth and compared the F to the FT to the later versions to kind of see like which one I would want to get into. So yeah, I definitely had my eye on this camera, and when I finally bought it this summer, I was not disappointed. I was pleasantly surprised at just like how much of a real camera it felt like in my hand, how well built it is, how aesthetic the camera is. I think it has a great look to it. Using the Olympus Pen-F for me felt natural. It felt easy to adapt to. I am someone that really appreciates camera systems that are mechanical, that don't require battery, that if I have to rate the exposure myself, I don't get too pressed about it. I have an external light meter after all, or Sunny 16, but I definitely prefer an external light meter. I would also have no problems recommending this camera to a fellow photographer if they were looking to get into half frame and they wanted to still make good images even though they were only shooting half the frame. So I would recommend the Olympus Pen-F with confidence to another photographer or to a friend. I would not do the same for the Kodak Ektar H35 because I don't believe it is a photographer-friendly camera at all. I was frustrated while using it because it felt like a really crappy point-and-shoot camera to me. I'm not someone who shoots a lot of point-and-shoots. Like, I'm not someone that hypes them a lot. I only own one point-and-shoot camera, and that's for a reason. They're not like high on my priority list of cameras to acquire. I plan on talking more about the Kodak Ektar H35 more in a later video to really dive into my feelings on this camera system and Kodak rolling out cameras as well. So look out for that. But let's get Scott's user experience. What say you, Scott?
My experience with the Kodak Ektar was I didn't like it at all. I felt it was cheap. I don't think it was definitely not worth $50, maybe like $10 in a bargain bin or something. The Kodak Ektar photos, they just looked cheap. They looked like they were taken with a plastic camera. There was a couple of decent ones in there if you can just like the moment or whatever, but as far as quality wise, it was pretty disappointing. Yeah, I didn't like the viewfinder at all. I couldn't really tell what my framing was. It turned out to be that it was super wide and the pictures turned out super wide, but I would say it felt like even more than it was 22. The Pen-F I really liked a lot. I think it's a great walk around, daily driver use. It has a good weight, feels to it. It's not heavy, but it has a weight to it. Very easy to use. You can get them with a light meter. This one I don't think did, but Sunny 16 will seem to work pretty good. But I like that camera, and I would own one of those. And I think what they go for, the $200 to $300 range, is good. It's reasonable. My photos from the Pen-F, they were more like 35 mil, which is more comfortable. I'm more used to shooting that. Felt right. We were on the pier, and we had lots of people to shoot and things to shoot. It was good. I liked how they came out. The camera jammed a couple of times, but I think even then, they were, everything came out fine. I liked them. That's why I think why it's a good camera. The lens was clear, and it was. The photos looked how I expected them to look when I took them. The first set of photos that I took on the Pen-F looked like they were exposed right, but I'm pretty sure they had blur on it, but I'm pretty sure I was shooting at like 125 or so. I'm not quite sure actually what happened with those. The dial when you're doing the Pen-F is, I guess there's a red dot there though, so you can see, you know,
in the front, yeah.
Yeah, in front. But I wasn't really experienced with that. But once I got past that, everything else seemed fine.
The winner of this head-to-head battle, the Olympus Pen-F. Overall, I'd say this head-to-head battle was an enlightening one. I did not go into this battle thinking that this would be real competition. I had seen a number of other people post videos about the Kodak Ektar, and since I had already bought the Olympus Pen-F this summer, I was like, yo, let's put these two in a head-to-head. It'll be fun. And Scott and I did have a lot of fun making the head-to-head battle and hanging out for the day down at the beach. And beach days are the best days, I always say. So there's no regrets in that regard. Make sure you comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on this battle. Let me know if you have gone on to buy either of these cameras and what your user experience has been like, because I'm very curious to hear about it. If you have made it to the end, I think you're trying to be my friend. And as friends do, please click that like button for me. Helps the channel grow. If you aren't already, subscribe to the channel because I would love to have you. And I will see you in the next one. All right, everybody. Peace.